Hi everybody, Clark Smith here. Today we're going to talk about the 2Jakes 2013 Petite Sirah that I made off of the Diamond Ridge Vineyard. And a lot of you are very familiar with this vineyard. But I'll go over the basics. It's really a miraculous piece of vineyard. It's up in Lake County in the southeast corner of the lake, in a peninsula that's right off the lake. So it's a volcanic soil, you could say similar to the Red Hills, but closer to the lake, and that's really important. In the Red Hills, the aromatics tend to burn off. You know, we're a half a mile up, and so there's a lot of UV, and that's very important to Petite Sirah. Get to that in a second. But for now, we've got a volcanic soil. It gives a lot of minerality and holds back the canopy so that there's lots of sunlight on that fruit, resulting in amazing color and flavor. And like I said, the problem in Lake County is that it's kind of hot, and so you can burn off the aromatics and just have all that good color and structure. And but at Diamond Ridge, we put our sweaters on at 3 o'clock every afternoon when the lake effect comes in and takes the temperature down to about 60. So there's really good retention of the blueberry and lavender aromas that we're going to talk about in this wine. The other thing about this particular Block 16 vineyard is that it's east facing. So in the morning we get the evaporation of dew very readily, but we don't get the raisoning that is typical of mountain vineyards, like in Amador, for example, in the hot afternoon western sun comes down. So let's talk about Petite Sirah particularly. This is originally known as Durif because Dr. Durif did a cross between Pelersan and Syrah. Pelersan is less well known, but it's a high altitude grape from the Alps that smells like grapefruit, and it has a really tight cluster, just like a hand grenade. Syrah has a loose cluster, and of course, as you know, is full of flavor and tannin and a kind of soft, round mouthfeel. But it usually doesn't have very much fruit, and I don't normally like Syrah unless it's been given something to do, like by blending or the sulfite-free Syrahs we make. Those can be very interesting, but Syrah by itself is a little bit, just can't decide what it's trying to do. It reminds me always of a male ballet dancer that doesn't have a ballerina to support, and that ballerina is this fruit that the Pelersan element gives. The problem, and this is why Durif is not highly prized in France, is that tight cluster means there's a lot of potential for rot. So that's why Lake County is, I think, the best place on earth to grow Petite Sirah, because we have lots of UV and dry air, and really honestly, people think Zinfandel is the signature variety of California, but I think it's Petite Sirah, and it has a lot more fruit and interest than Syrah normally does. Okay, now we're suited up the way we are because this stuff has so much color that you really don't want to get it on your clothes. You never wear white when you're drinking this wine. And I guess we might as well get into it, huh? So, let's see. And I'm going to, having said all that, I'm just going to turn it over to you two to give us your unsolicited opinion. Now this is it's a 13, and it was 78 months in neutral oak, and we just bottled it in April of 2019.
Yes, we did.
My love. Okay, who wants to go first? You want to start, Sandra?
Oh, those blueberries pop right at you.
Mm-hmm. there's some other things. It's not, when it was young, it was just simple blueberries with that lavender floral thing. But now we've developed, I think there's some of the sage from that,
Oh.
droughty herbs from that high altitude that are in.
Me waiting for the layman's perspective.
I think that smile says it all.
I like it.
You know what I think is really interesting is that this has, because of the microoxygenation we do and the fact that it has so much color, most volcanic soils will give you pretty hard tannins, but this is really quite feminine. There's boatloads of tannin in this thing.
Yes.
But it's oily, it's
Yeah.
feminine, it's kind of silky and smooth.
It kind of melts. It doesn't just stay on your palate.
Right.
And then in the finish, you've got that minerality, that palate energy in the back.
That adds a little more complexity.
Nice little kiss in the head.
I don't know, those blueberries just pop right at you.
I've always talked about this Petite Sirah. We made a lot of them off of this vineyard over the years. And I always said that it wasn't really a terribly profound wine. It was more very generous, and that I always said, this is a wine you want to drink at 6:15 on a Friday after a hard week. It's kind of a back rub of a wine. But this one's got a little bit more going for it. I might just serve this for Sunday dinner.
Sure.
It's much more contemplative, and I think the difference is that we always used to bottle it after 2 or 3 years, and now it's been in neutral French wood for 6.5 years, for 78 months, and there's just some magic that happens when you do that. I have no idea what it is, but
Just does its
I
own
think we
thing.
got it here. And you certainly couldn't call it an oaky wine. All those barrels were at least 20 years old, but. Yeah, that gives me something to think about. So what would you guys recommend to pair this with?
The dark cherries and to pair it with. Well, if I'm gonna say anything about it, I'd agree it's definitely drinkable as dinner on its own. I might just take the rest of the bottle home.
Yeah,
and
it's
take
fairly
it.
substantial fare, that's true. And obviously, a good steak or prime rib or anything like that would be good. I think this might work with duck breast.
Oh, because the oil's in it?
Yeah.
Because the oil tannin.
Salmon?
You think so? Let's try
I was
that.
guessing that because of the oil. I was thinking pork. Pork
Yeah, yeah.
tenderloin,
Pork
yeah.
tenderloin.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great with pork. We have a little trick we do with our pork when we put it on the barbecue is we rub some Dijon mustard on it. Sounds crazy, but it really comes out good, and that's what I do. Let's try that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's to Jake Stevens and Diamond Richard.